Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 230 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes. I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Mr. Nick Manella. What's going on, my friend?
I'm cold, boys. It's freezing in here, and that's because it's the frozen frenzy.
Oh yeah, live recording during the epic one time this year Frozen Frenzy. Always a good time. We'll talk about the NHL scheduling that on a Tuesday on the same night as NBA opening night later in the episode, but
Just A tier marketing. There is no way that could backfire in any way possible. You just love to see it.
what a time to be alive. But I am now going to toss it across the screen to my co-host who is not in Wisconsin right now, Mr. Mac Vogel. What's going on, my friend?
What's good? I am in bumfuck California, which is better than bumfuck like Iowa, I suppose, which is where I often am on the road, but yeah, we'll take it. It's okay. Weather's nice, so we've got that going for us, and feels a little weird to be in sunny California during the frozen frenzy, but I'm having a good time.
Oh man. Yep. Sounds that was good. I enjoyed that one. All right, we got a big episode on tap here. Lots to talk about, interview involved, so not a whole lot of chitter chatter to start off. But I want to say thank you to the Daily Over, aka TDO, for joining us for an interview. We just sat down with him and wrapped it up. Solid Habs chatter, little bit of gambling tips, player props, team totals, all that good stuff. That's going to be in the middle of the episode. But we have a lot of news to get to, fellas. So if you guys don't have anything you feel the need to share, we'll get rolling.
I just have one thing to share real quick before we get rolling, and that's from our friends over at Gametime. There's nothing like watching hockey live. The chill of the ice, the sound of the puck, and screaming for your favorite team. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. I got my Caps tickets for this week on Gametime, and now you can too. Gametime's deals make it easier to find the best prices on the best seats, and you can even see a panoramic view from your seats before you pay. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time.
You will feed families if you use code THPN on game time, so please do so. All right, we're gonna hop into it. We have one team remaining that is undefeated in the NHL, and just like we all predicted, it is the Winnipeg Jets. 5-0, second most goals per game in the league, second best goals against per game in the league. They have the best power play in the league. They have the best goalie in the league. This team is on fire right now, boys. What are we thinking?
This should scare a lot of people.
While it's not necessarily something that we all predicted, as you alluded to, it's not like shocking to me. I mean, this is a team we talked about a lot last year as having stretches of a handful of games where they looked super dangerous. Just kind of couldn't keep it all together in the postseason last year. But I think it's not shocking to me that they're this good so far. And again, it's early. But yeah, I expect this team to be one of the better teams in the league all year. I think they'll keep it up.
I think, yeah, that's a great point. They were very streaky, very hot and cold last year. All this team has to do is get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. It does not matter what seed they are. They have one of the hardest barns to play in. That's just a straight up fact. Everyone knows that. They have a Vezina class goaltender, as we've seen, and they just play fuck you hockey. These guys can show up against a Vegas, a Dallas, a Colorado, an Edmonton, and just absolutely ruin your day.
I was wondering if the performance from last postseason for Hellebuck was going to kind of mess with him going into this year. Colorado really lit him up much more than I think any of us thought. He has definitely silenced that take from me through 4 games, 952 save percentage, and a 1.2 GAA. Those are unreal numbers. Yeah, they look great.
I forget who it was, but I saw somebody on Twitter being like, if you're one of the Jets fans that like criticizes Hellebuck, like you're just an idiot. Like if
Yeah.
you're one of the Jets fans who's like,
It's
oh,
so true.
freaking like Hellebuck or whatever, it's like, shut the fuck up. You don't get to complain about your quote unquote bad goalie when you've got Connor Hellebuck. Like, sorry, you had one bad postseason series, but like, no, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
That game on I think it was Sunday against Pittsburgh. I got to watch a little bit of that. They're fast. I don't usually think of Winnipeg as a fast team. I think of them more as like a heavier kind of thing, like big bodies, Western hockey type vibe. But they can skate, man. They're a fast team. Granted, the Penguins suck and have no goalie. But they were down 2-0 early to the Pens, and they stormed right back. I think that was a 6-3 finish. They are lethal offensively. And that segues perfectly into the Pittsburgh Penguins and all of the storylines over the last week that have surrounded this team. We'll give some kudos here first to the two-headed monster. Sidney Crosby scored his 1600th point on a secondary assist on a Brian Russ goal last Wednesday on that TNT matchup against the Sabres. And in that same game, Malkin got his 500th career goal. And of course, it was assisted by no other than Sidney Crosby. Just really cool to see. The only fun part of being a Pens fan for the last 7 days is watching these two guys keep going up in the record books. I think Crosby, 10th guy all time in scoring now. That's insane. Malkin keeps climbing 500 goals. Can't remember what number guy he is to do that, but it's pretty rare. And that was just a wild game. That was a 6-5 OT thriller. Sid scores in overtime, and there has been nothing good that has happened to this team since that game. I want to ask you guys just initial reactions on milestones, and then we can bash the Penguins together.
So milestones were great. Obviously, we know Sid breaking into what, the top 10 now, all time in scoring. I think it's just a question of how high up the ladder does he go and how much longer does he keep playing. Gino, I do like dislike him as a player because I think he's incredibly inconsistent and he plays for the Penguins, but I do have to give him credit. He's absolutely one of the best to ever do it. I mean, his 2009 Stanley Cup playoffs alone can probably go down as one of the best like single player performances we've ever seen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Obviously gets the Conn Smythe that year and gets rewarded for it. Mac texted us in our group chat over the weekend, or maybe it was last week, and said that that goaltending performance by Ivan Fedotov was like one of the worst goaltending performances he's ever seen. I'd actually like to take that a step further and say that like the 5 minutes Tristan Jarry played against the Buffalo Sabres the other day is the worst goaltending performance I've ever seen, and the guy faced like 5 shots.
Yeah. Mac, any compliments to my two-headed monster before we go down this rabbit hole?
You're two-headed monster. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, good job. Like, did you want a cookie or
By
Brownie.
two-headed monster, he means Zach and Wheezy from Dragon Tales.
hell yeah. That's the only two-headed monster I'm recognizing in this household, which is a hotel room. But um yeah, no, I mean, unironically, like, yeah, it's sick. Like, who doesn't love some good milestones? I can appreciate that as a puck knower, as a hockey fan. But you know, nice job, good
Be
work, and
really interesting to like take a black light to like Canadian hockey dads bed sheets the night after Crosby cracked the top 10
oh
on
yeah, there we go.
the
That
all-time
that
scoring list.
that's true. That's true.
That would be a sight to see. So yes, as Nick alluded to, that was a 6-5 finish. And Tristan Jarry gets pulled like I believe it was 10 within 10 minutes, 12 minutes it is, into the game, lets up 3 goals in his first 12 minutes, and he hasn't dressed since. This is an enormous problem for this club right now, is that they do not have a number one goaltender. Joel Blomqvist, I can't say Swedish names well. He's come in. He's actually looked pretty respectable. He hasn't, stolen a game yet per se. Well, he did against Detroit, but
I
he
thought he
looks
looked
fine.
really good when he came in relief of Jari. I know a lot of times that can galvanize a young goaltender. Come in, we need you now, and just focuses on playing their game and shutting it down. And obviously, they battle back to end up winning that game. So, yeah, I thought he looked solid. How old is he?
He's young. I think he's like 22, 23. He was drafted in 2020.
Okay.
Um, and he did play well in that game against the Buffalo Sabres. And since then, I think he started against the Hurricanes. We got pumped. And then they put, I think it was Nedeljkovic in for Winnipeg. We got pumped. Now they're doing Nedeljkovic again for tonight against Calgary. I'm going to anticipate we get pumped. I joked about that with Melissa Cunningham on Twitter, and she totally agreed. So yeah, the Penguins have an enormous problem. They've allowed the most goals in the league, and they don't have a goalie, and there's nobody coming to save that.
I wouldn't necessarily have a ton of confidence in Nedeljkovic and what is the other guy's name again? Blomqvist.
Blomqvist.
Blomqvist. Yeah.
Blomqvist.
Okay. Yeah, that's probably not a recipe for success long term unless this kid just starts stealing games for you left and right and standing on his head. But do you put all of this on goaltending, or are there defensive issues you're worried about too?
So Jari is definitely the easy scapegoat, and rightfully so. In his last 17 games, he has an 867 save percentage, and the Penguins have only won six of those 17 contests. So there's a trend there, right? That being said, I am very concerned about what I am seeing with Carlson and Letang so far. They have looked atrocious up
But
to this
that being
point.
said, like I feel like they're always more relied on for offensive output than like shutdown D. Like if the D core isn't getting the job done, is that necessarily falling on Letang and Carlson, or is that just like a lack of depth in terms of like actual shutdown defenders, would you say?
They definitely are a little bit more of like a hybrid in terms of their offensive usage, but just, some of the pinches they're making are boneheaded. They're making dumb passes. I mean, Carlson last year, everyone was like, "Oh, he's not good anymore. He didn't score." They didn't score that as much, but at least he was in position. This year, it's the complete opposite. It's like they took the chains off of him, and now he's never in position. So. Yeah, I know they're supposed to be more offensive, but man, they both look absolutely brutal.
Well, and I feel like Letang too. Like, why do I feel like he? And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, you watch more Penguins hockey than I do, but like he kind of seems to have like good year, bad year, good year, bad year. At least the last couple of years, it's been like hit or miss.
Yep,
Last year, he had a really good year, right?
yep, yep,
And then the year before, wasn't he kind of like there was question marks about like, how much longer he should stick around kind of thing. And so
yep,
now we're kind of right back to that era.
yep. It's a noticeable trend. He eats a ton of ice time, so a lot of people thought when Carlson came, it would settle everything down, and now it seems like there's just double trouble in the kitchen, and it's not looking pretty or smelling good at all. So we'll see. Depends on their Western Canadian road trip. They definitely need to get two wins out of that, and they already got spanked by Winnie on Sunday.
Could
So
come at a good time. I feel like a lot of
Yep.
times, like a longer, even if it's not longer, but like a further away road trip can really like get the boys together and get everybody on the same page. So less distractions on the road than there are at home, that kind of thing. So you never know. Maybe that'll help.
Definitely.
and in that Winnie game, obviously it went a little viral, and Mac was so kind to share the video to our group chat. Rucker McGroarty getting sent down to Wilkes-Barre, and then the Jets fans had a little fun with that, saying, "Where is Rucker?" Thought it was funny. I think the kid's gonna be fine. Don't hit the panic button, but it's a nice little troll job. So kudos.
No, anyone that's hitting the panic button here, I would say it's a little bit premature. This is a kid that's coming out of college and you're just throwing him into the NHL. And you're throwing him, let's be real, onto the Penguins. That's a team with a lot of great players. And, there's some issues in that team too. So they're still figuring their lineup out. If they don't know where he fits best and just want to get him comfortable, why not send him to Wilkes-Barre Scranton?
And by the same token, though, I love what you said, Harry. I mean, regardless of whether it's like warranted or not, or whatever's going on in that room, like if you're a Jets fan, you gotta pour it on. Like you gotta troll.
Yeah, when I heard that, it made me think of when is Cutter Gauthier coming to Philly. And
Yep.
I just looked that up. That is on January
And
11th.
oddly enough, I saw like on that video of Winnipeg chanting that was posted on Twitter, a Flyers fan had actually commented and said like I feel very similarly about this situation, like for you guys as I do about the Cutter situation. In that, the guy was saying like, I don't wish any like harm on Cutter. I really don't even care that much. It's not like I really couldn't care less about him, not being part of our team anymore. That being said, when he comes back, I fully plan to like
Oh yeah.
participate in the troll. You just, you have to. It's
You
just
have to.
it's part of the fandom, and you got to give people shit when they kind of deserve it a little bit.
Yeah, I think they have a right to be upset at the situation, unless the player's forcing it, which I mean, Jesse Pollock recently, noted Jets fan, bar down member, TSN guy, was just talking about how, he was upset with the fact that these college kids can basically force their way out of teams that have drafted them. Of course, the Eric Lindros example is the first one that comes to mind here with him saying, I don't want to play in Quebec. And, obviously Gauthier didn't want to play in Philly. I don't know what the situation behind the McGroarty deal was, but
Aaron Judge and the Oakland Athletics.
right, I do agree a little bit that there probably needs to be a better system for the team saying like, hey, if we're going to draft you, we're kind of pushing our chips in. We just wasted a very high first round draft pick on you, and now you're going to go ahead and walk. Not necessarily the best thing for them.
Yeah, it's like the least we're going to do. You better believe our fans are going to yell at you at
Oh
the
yeah,
very like you're gonna get that.
and
So
if you thought it was bad in Winnipeg,
Yeah.
Philadelphia, oof.
Yeah, these people chirp their football coach when they win games. What do you think they're going to do to a
They threw
19-year-old kid?
snowballs at Santa Claus. Like they're not people.
It is one hell of a sports town, that's for sure. But on the complete opposite side of the coin, the Washington Capitals look very nice, and that pains me to say, but I will let you two stroke yourselves a little bit here and share your thoughts on the Caps.
Good start. Love the start, but I think we all kind of got to remember right now that that's what this is a start. But there are some very, very good signs for this team. I think it's very noticeable for Caps fans in contrast to last year. Number one, passing is so much better. Cross ice passes are actually helping our team and not sending the opposing team flying the other way in a 3-on-1. So that's awesome to see. I love the puck movement from the D. I love the breakout passes from the D. They look great right now. I know Matty Roy's a little bit banged up, but as we saw tonight against the Flyers, Big Mac steps in and makes his presence known, both with his playmaking and with his fist. I think you're seeing now what a Spencer Carberry coach team with usable assets in place looks like.
yeah, it's a great point. And like you can tell, I heard an interview earlier or the other day or something, I can't remember, but basically Carbs was saying that he was a little surprised with last season. Kind of he was a little like overzealous about how easily he was going to be able to implement his system, and then kind of realized, okay, this is gonna like I might need to take this entire season, talking about last season, to like really implement this system and get everybody on the same page. But he was saying he's coming into this year feeling like while there's new pieces, he has a core that knows his system, that knows what to expect from him. He knows what to expect from them, that kind of thing. And I think it's important having a base of players that like has that knowledge. And then it's easier when you bring in new players, like some of the additions we added over over the off season. When they can come in and see other guys already playing that system, it's easier for them to jump into that. But on that same note, I've loved the additions so far. I think pretty much every single one of them has made their presence known in a good way at one point or another. Obviously, Vrana with a big goal early on in the season. Mangiapane with a couple nice goals. PLD Carberry said he thinks PLD has been like the best player on the team so far this year, which like it's not like he's scoring a ton of goals, but I really like his game. Like I saw him just a real subtle play earlier in the Flyers game, just absolutely body somebody like in the middle of the ice and just like completely like make the Flyers turn the puck over. Just little stuff like that. That we were not getting from dudes last year. So I like it. I think everybody's been saying on Twitter too, if you're the Capitals, I know it's only 5 games in, but you got to be already thinking about how can we sign Jacob Chikrin to an extension. He
No,
has he
seriously.
has looked fantastic, and what a load to take off of Carlson's shoulders as well. Just with how many minutes that guy is relied on year in and year out every night. So Yeah, it's been good. I've been happy so far.
No, the back end can move and they can move the puck with confidence too. I think last year, with how much of a revolving door that whole lineup was, but specifically the back end, you saw guys maybe not want to, move the puck with confidence. Hey, it's just going to be easier for me to rim this thing and let's play shutdown hockey and try and sneak our way into the playoffs, which they did. I want to go back to what you said about PLD, and you actually said something in I think it was like our season preview or something, maybe recapping this trade, but everyone was shitting all over the Caps when this trade was made. And they were saying, oh, have fun getting 15 goals and, like 25 points out of this guy throughout the year. And there's so many like non-tangibles, intangibles that you get from this guy. And I think you made a great point with it, just bodying people off the puck, going into the corners and coming out with the puck. Little passes out of the corner, on the half wall, on the power play. I thought he's looked great there. So I mean, that guy I think is so invaluable to the Caps. I don't think you could put a price tag on him so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And then last shout out just to mention the fourth line with Dowd and Radish and Duhaime. I think Dowd has kind of been the captain of like our fourth line over the last few seasons, and there's been a lot of good iterations of it. The best one probably being what was it, Dowd, Hagelin, and Hathaway like 2 or 3 years
Yeah.
ago now. And it feels like we've been kind of chasing that fourth line level for the last year or so, and we had some iterations last year that worked for stretches of time. But so far, what I've seen from that Dowd, Duhaime, and Radish, I mean, that is a match made in heaven as far as chemistry goes, as far as what you want a fourth line to do when they get on the ice. They've looked great.
Yeah, I was at the Caps Stars game. Huge win for the Caps last week. And Radish scores, so that's awesome to see. You love to see the fourth line goals come, especially when it's from a new guy, because that's just such a huge confidence boost. But I mean, that line was just running around taking people's heads off. The Caps were out hitting the Stars. I think at one point it was like 26-5. I mean, they were just running through people.
Yep. Last two quick things and then we can move on. But the goalies, I've been happy with that as well. I think a lot of people were really counting on Charlie Lindgren just kind of being a fluke last year and like, oh, he's not going to be actually good this year. But I know it's early, but so far he has made some seriously good saves, has looked really dialed in. I've loved his play. I feel like he's picked up right where he left off. And last thing too, it's kind of refreshing to see like all the attention we've been getting. Like I know like Elliot Elliot has been big on the Caps. Chicklets was talking about the Caps. And then even like in the intermission of the Frozen Frenzy earlier, PK Subban was talking about how he was all fired up and he's like saying how Carberry has these boys dialed in. He's like, don't sleep on the Caps. I've been saying they're going to be a really good team this year, that kind of stuff. I'm just not used to it, man. I don't want too much attention because too much
Right.
is not good either. But it's a little refreshing to see that for sure.
It's a great point because usually, I mean, it used to be NBC, now it's ESPN, ABC. When the national media is talking about the Caps, like 90% of the NBC staff just had horribly negative things to say. Keith Jones
Yeah,
spearheading that, despite the
yeah.
fact that he played for the
It's
Washington
always felt
Capitals.
like
But
that for some reason. Like
yeah, and we
national
all know
attention.
Chicklets hates the Caps. They
Yeah,
absolutely hate the Caps.
yeah.
So, I mean, it's always nice to hear them get a little bit of a tire pump there. But
Hmm.
Harry, what are your thoughts so far? I know this hasn't been very fun for you to watch, but just overall thoughts in general.
I'm miserable right now. Yeah, no, I mean the Caps, they look good. I'll be honest, I haven't gotten a chance to watch too many of their games. Um, but some of the teams they've beaten, I mean, it's one thing to have a few wins under your belt, but they've beaten Vegas, they've beaten Dallas. That's nothing to sneeze at there.
Gutsy
Uh,
OT win against the Devils too.
yeah, against the Devils after they lost to them, at the start, nice little revenge game. I don't know what the score is as we're recording this, but Mac was talking about Dowd. He had a sweet breakaway goal to kick off the Caps Flyers. So what's the score there? Do you guys know?
It is 3-1 good guys with 9 to go in the third.
Yeah. So they're off to a good start. Pains me to say it. I don't want to see it. I don't like hearing about it. I'm jealous a little bit, probably a lot of bit. But you know what? I would probably bet most people listening to this show are Caps fans. So if that does good for the show, then I guess for the good of the order, I'll be like tolerant of this. But I'm not very happy about it. Make no
Okay,
mistake.
that's fair. I'll take that as a win. Can we talk about the fight of the year?
That was crazy. Yeah, you guys can English. Nick, you can talk about it.
So Delorier and McElrath. So that's some heavy boys right there. You can keep your Matt Rempe, you can keep your Ryan Reeves.
Yeah.
That's the best hockey fight I've seen in 5 years.
Delorier, first game of the year too. You love
Yeah.
that for him. And there was nothing better too than like seeing them look at each other when they were done because the refs didn't break them up. They fully go watch the highlight if you haven't seen it, but they fully beat the shit out of each other for what, 30, 45 seconds at least. And they're still like wrapped up in it, but they're just so tired from throwing hooks at each other. They kind of just look at each other. They're both bleeding from the face and they just look at each other and just kind of start laughing. I'm like, nah, like, you think that's enough? Like, yeah, that's probably enough for now.
It was
So
awesome.
true.
It was awesome. Great fight. Love to see it.
I also love how I think like McElrath had Delorier's jersey right here, and then Delorier's helmet comes off and the strap gets caught in Big
Yeah.
Mac's hand. So there's just like an extra helmet flying back and forth between these like just right-handed bombs being thrown. It looked hilarious.
Also, maybe this is a hot take. That was a pretty even fight, right? I think we could say like I wouldn't necessarily say one guy had the clear upper hand, right?
Yeah, I'd agree.
And then Delorier after the fight is like looking at the crowd and like doing this and pumping them up. I don't have a problem with it, but I also feel like you can't really do that unless you definitively won the fight. Not sure if that's a hot take.
I think it depends. I think I was actually okay with it because to me I saw it more of again, it's his first game. I think he's fired up to be like in the lineup and like be doing what he does best, which is like that basically. But
Yeah.
I saw it more of him kind of looking at his own bench and being like, let's fucking
Let's
go.
go.
Like I'm in this fucking game. You guys get in this game, like
And
Yeah.
I think you
that
can
kind
say
of a
that to the
thing.
fans too. Like, hey, if we're gonna play, you guys need to get behind us. Let's make
Yeah,
some noise
because they
here. At
were
least make
down
it
one
hard for them.
nothing, and he was kind of like, "Look, before this like gets out of hand, like I'm trying to pump everybody up." I didn't see it as like a celebration, more as like, "Look, I'm fucking getting punched in the face, and I'm
He
punching guys in the face. Like
he didn't
you do
celebrate
your part."
someone getting knocked out. Let's put it that way.
Right? Yeah, Aaron Asham.
Good night. All right. Moving on from the Washington Capitals, Jake Ottinger gets a nice, healthy extension with the Dallas Stars, gets that 8 year by 8.25 mil extension. It is the exact same contract that Swayman and Allmark signed right before the season started. That is also very comparable to Connor Hellebuck, who's at 8.5, and is also the exact same contract as Ilya Sorokin. So for Dallas, what does that mean? They've got Ottinger, Hintz, and Heiskanen all locked up until I think like 2029, 2030. So the core in Dallas is intact. You got to imagine Wyatt Johnston is next on their list. And then I think Robo has like this year and next year, and then he's eligible. So, Nick, I know you're kind of the what I would say noted stars glazer on this podcast. I think you got to be pretty fired up over this.
That's that. I would say that's fair to say. I definitely went out of my way to catch them when they came to DC the other night. Always a fun hockey team to watch. They are so talented. Anytime you get to watch Miro Heiskanen skate, period, I think you should stop what you're doing and just go watch it. I don't understand how it's possible for a human being to be that effortless on skates going from backwards to forwards with the puck. It's unbelievable. Anyways, the Ottinger move is great for them. They kind of had to do this. I don't know how that's going to affect the Robertson deal in any way. That one will get done for sure. I mean, maybe down the road they have to cut ties with a player taking two, 3.5 here or something like that. But I think they're in a good position where they have enough young guys who are going to be on entry level deals for the next 3 years or so, 2 to 3 years. I mean, if you're looking at Stankoven, Wyatt Johnston, those guys, that I think they'll be fine. And honestly, we're kind of in a position in the NHL right now where goalies are the new wide receivers. They can just say, "Okay, I want that deal that he got, and you're going to pay me that now, or I'm just not going to play."
Yeah, I mean, I won't bring up the whole Igor thing. We talked about that last week, and that was obviously a debated subject. That was the first thing I thought of when I saw this, but a pretty fair deal for Ottinger. I also think I heard I think it was from Chiclets, where they were bringing up the whole state tax thing, and it was something like, he's making probably on average a couple $100,000 more because of the whole, Texas state tax laws than some of the other goalies who have the same contract. So,
Yeah, that's
working
clutch. Ray
nice.
Ferraro said on the broadcast today that he's never gonna have a car payment ever again.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. Some bad news out of the island. The Duke, Lou Lamoriello says that Anthony Duclair will be out for a quote long time with an injury, but he is not expected to miss the full season. Obviously, want to give our thoughts over to Duclair there.
That's a bummer. He looked really good for the first like couple games he played. I thought he was gonna have a really good year with the Isles, so sad to see. Also, really glad that I didn't pull trig on a fantasy trade that was offered to me about a week ago, right before he got injured.
Who offered you that one?
Stevie Baker.
Oh, nice. So that would be a good trade. It's not Ian, so that's a win.
Right.
Yeah, I would say we're all fans of the Duke on this podcast. Definitely rooting for that guy. So hopefully he can come back. I know they said long term. I know it's not supposed to be the full year, but hopefully he can come back and contribute just in time for the Islanders to miss the playoffs.
For sure, for sure. Um, some more little roster moves here. Seamus Casey was sent down to Utica by the Devils. I won't read the whole quote because it's kind of long, but essentially Sheldon Keefe said, you know what, he played well while he was up here. He did his job, but in the last couple games, it looks like the schedule kind of ate him up. And he had an interesting quote where he was talking about, these college kids, they're not used to playing this many games in this period, condensed schedule, right? They're playing 6 games, sometimes 12 nights. That's a big adjustment for some of the college kids coming up. So I'm sure Casey will be back up at some point, but for right now, I want to tip my cap for helping me win my week 1 fantasy matchup. Thank you for your service, and I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, and I think this is more of like I saw some fans saying that this might be like they don't want to waste his first year yet type of thing, which
Yeah,
isn't that was that 10 games or 15 games? I think
I
10
think it's
games, right?
10.
10, I
So
think.
what, he probably played 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think it's more of a business move, not at all related to like how he played because he looked great, obviously. But that's I saw some casual fans in the comments being like, "What the hell? This doesn't make any sense." But yeah, just a business move.
Yeah. Harry, I think you bring up a great point about the college thing. I mean, usually those guys play, Thursday or Friday and then Saturday, and then they're off for a week and then rinse and repeat the following weekend. So, having to do the, 3 games in 5 nights between, a Monday and a Friday, I'm sure is a big adjustment for them, especially at the NHL level, because I mean,
Yeah.
that's just insane.
No, that's a hard amount of volume to get your body used to. I mean, you can go to training camp, you can play preseason, but once you get in the real swing of things, yeah, it's a grind. All right, I'm gonna finish up the news segment with a fun stat, and then we'll get to the TDO interview here. I want to ask you boys a question, and give me honesty. Have you seen this stat swirling around your timelines yet? Do you know the answer?
I do not.
Mac, do you? Okay. Which NHL team has yet to trail this season? They have gone 300 minutes of regulation play without trailing in a game, and it's the fourth best start to an NHL season in terms of minutes trailing ever.
So to be clear, the answer doesn't have to be a team that's undefeated because like if you lose an overtime game or something, you didn't trail, right?
Correct.
So the answer is not the Winnipeg Jets, I'm guessing, because that'd be
That
too
is
easy.
that is correct. Yes.
Okay. But it's probably somebody who's only lost like one game and that was like an OT loss or something like that.
Your deductive reasoning is strong. You should be an investigator.
Is it the Minnesota Wild?
It is the Minnesota Wild. They have not
Wow.
trailed yet.
I was like, who's the last team I would think of to
I
have this
was not gonna
stat?
guess that. That's wild. That
And if
is the wild.
And if I'm not mistaken, yeah, they're pumping the Panthers 5-1 in Florida right now.
Dang, all
Crazy.
right.
Sheesh.
Yeah, hell of a start. 2 overtime losses, but yeah, many. I was shocked when I saw that. I haven't really been dialed in. But we are going to toss it off to TDO. But before we do, we just want to remind you that this interview is brought to you by Prop Tracker. Prop Tracker is your home for player prop research and finding outlier bets for NHL, NBA, NFL, and more. Once you find a bet you like, start tracking it to get notified on its progress, like shots, rebounds, or catches. Go to proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters to try a free month of Android or iOS app on us. You'll get your first month free. Link in our bio or proptrackerapp.com/emptybetters. We're going to toss it off to TDO right now. Alrighty, it is now my pleasure to welcome back to the Empty Betters podcast for I don't know how many times now, but definitely a decent amount, probably up there in the top five, I'd say. The
Sure.
Daily Over, TDO. Cole, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys. So good to be back. Season's back, kicking it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. Before we talk gambling, I wanna ask you just based on your hat, the Habs. What have you thought of the Habs start to the season so far?
Uh, as a Habs fan, well, we beat the two teams that we had to. Toronto, Ottawa, we'll take it. At least for up here in the north, feels good to take the wins against Toronto and Ottawa. But to be honest with you, I didn't know what to expect this season out of them. Young team, especially on the back end. I think they're the second youngest team in the league behind Buffalo now. Average age 26. Um, I like their pace of play. They look faster this year. But I don't know what to expect out of the 82 games. A lot of these kids, Lane Hudson, for example, comes out of college, not used to playing, 82 games, like how he looked. He's gonna have those off nights, the -4 nights, obviously, but been happy with it. Montembeau's been looking good, still letting in too many pucks, which is good for the over. So, got to keep those guys on the radar for sure all season. But I'm hoping that they progress, right? I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I would like to see them out of the bottom five. I know it's always good for draft picks, but I don't want that losing mentality creep in, while they're trying to go through a rebuild. I'd like to see them maybe move up to that bottom 10, maybe top 20, uh, just outside the playoffs, and then, grow from there, work on it for next season. But it's fun to watch. Like I go into every game not knowing what is going to happen. Like in past years, I'm like, okay, this team, it's a loss type of thing. And then, they seem to be competing under Marty St. Louis, and fun to watch. So we'll see
Uh,
how the rest of the year goes.
One guy I want to ask you about, heart and soul of that team, Nick Suzuki. 33 goals last year, comes up just shy of 80 points. Do you see him getting to that 40 goal mark this year, maybe next year?
Uh, I would love them to. Off to, I would say, a rough start. Like producing, I think he's 5 points in 6 games now. No goals, so held off. Don't get me wrong, Caulfield's off to a hot start, 6-6. But yeah, I'd like to see him progress into that 80, 90 point guy. I don't know if he's a 40 goal scorer. I'd love to see him in that 25 to 35 every year. And because he's setting up Suzuki, you have 40 to 50 assists. But he's a 200-foot guy as well. I think if, he maintains that 70, 80 a season and plays both ends of the rink, I think it's a win for the team. But I'd like to see a little bit more, maybe, I don't know if it's his game to be aggressive or anything, but a little bit more passion, I guess. This year I'm looking at the squad and what they're doing. I'm every night it's still Gallagher bringing it, and I'm like, Gallagher, like when is it gonna be the top line that is, driving this team into, the fight or into the game? So that's what I'd like to see more. But I'd love them to progress and, between this year and next year, get over that 80 and 90 points. I think Carey Price played for what, 13, 14 seasons with us and had one player with over 80 points, and that was Alex Kovalev in his rookie season. So, like, it's painful.
It's nuts.
It's painful. Like, we got to get somebody over 80.
Yeah, I feel like
Well,
that's kind
let's
of been like the issue for the last, I don't know, 10 years or so is, they thought Pacioretty was going to be the guy that, obviously had his injury issues. He had a couple good scoring years, but it just wasn't ever really enough. And I mean, there's a lot on Suzuki's shoulders. I mean, young captain, captain of the Montreal Canadiens, and everyone's sort of looking at you as the guy in Montreal now. I mean, it's him
For
and
sure.
Caulfield, right?
Yeah, I think he carries that weight well. But it is a lot, right? And it has been for the last few years on him, Caulfield, now Slavakovsky, still 19 or 20 or whatever he is. Obviously it hurt losing Line A, not that he was there last year, but boost the top six, take some pressure off, maybe the second power play or the first power play, like those guys. And more opportunity for points, obviously, as well. Uh, but I do like where they're headed, like with the youth and what they're bringing in. Like Demidov was a great pick. Nothing against Reinbacher, but would have loved Mitch Cobb the year before. Like, can you imagine Mitch Cobb and
Yeah,
Demidov and Line
yeah,
next year as
yeah,
your second or first line, and you Caulfield, Suzuki, Slavakovsky. You still have Newhook, Doc if he plays 82.
yeah.
Then you're starting to build like young depth that you could see. Okay, in 1 or 2 years, like this should be a playoff team.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we were talking about the 80-point guy, and I feel like everybody over the offseason was going gaga over this guy, but Slavkovsky, you got the big payday. People reporting he looks like an absolute mammoth in the gym. I mean, I watched the Pens Canadians game. I think maybe it was a week and a half ago at this point, and I was dialed into that one, and a couple things stood out. One, Lane Hudson is like Allen Iverson on skates. It's crazy. But
Yeah, he looks
secondly,
good so far.
Slakowski is enormous. I mean, he's strong and he's only what, like 21 years old? What are
Yeah,
you
20, I
expecting
think.
out of him?
He's a big boy. I think, to be honest with you, it was just announced today he's out for a week, upper body.
Oh, not that strong anymore, sorry.
Nothing serious. But he's big, strong on the puck. And I think in the first year, um, he came in right away, which I don't know if, was the smartest for the development or the best maybe, but also they had nobody else. So get him the reps. But he got knocked around, right? Like in the first year, got knocked around, came back from injury last year, started cold, but ended the season red hot. And, even into this year, I think he was almost a point per game or one off that, which was awesome to see. And if he can continue that way and be strong on the puck, like he's amazing in front of the net, right? Like these, like the goalie can't see past him, which is a fantastic option. And now that you have Lane Hudson hopefully on power play number one soon, with Matheson out, um, like I just think the future is looking better and better, but nothing's for sure until it happens, right? At the end of the day, like I feel like I've been saying the Habs are 3 years away for 3 years.
For
So,
3 years. Yeah.
um,
Nah, it makes sense. Young team. We'll see. They're a fun team to watch for sure. But
yeah.
I know everybody tuning in is going to want to hear what you're looking at in terms of betting so far this season. I know we talked a little bit before we started recording, but shots on goals kind of been hit or miss, but the overs seem to be doing all right. Maybe share a couple teams that you've been targeting, and then we can dive into the player props.
Yeah, for sure. Totals have been great this year. Off to a good start, which sometimes at the start of the year isn't the easiest to do. Started years pretty cold before and then kind of got hot. This year it's been a little bit different, which is nice and hopefully keep it going. But um, it's been a weird start. And I think we were talking about that before we got on here. But your go-tos like the Edmontons, they're not hitting overs. Buffalo hit or miss, which has been tougher to find. So I've been looking for, they've been giving us 5.5s earlier on the season. And then I'm starting to look at because teams are running backup goalies, more often now with the splits. So I've been looking at the 5.5s and teams that are taking some uh, penalties and some good power plays to start, like Ottawa. Ottawa's afternoon games are lights out. I think we've hit two second period cashes on them.
Brunch.
They've been fantastic. Colorado has always
Yeah.
been an over team, but usually they're the ones scoring. This year they've been getting lit up. So we've hit them a couple times. Vegas has been off to a crazy start with goals. I think they're 5-1 on the over to
Yeah.
start the year. So keep your eye out on them because I think, Aiden Hill's kind of come back a bit and I think Samsonov's their backup.
Yeah.
So not the goaltending that they're used to in the past. And now that Eichel's healthy and lighten it up, that's a team. Um, but just for teams that like New Jersey, usually I think they're 1-5 this year. Edmonton's 1-4. Vancouver's like 1-4. Teams that I've been, in the past, I've been staying away from early on and kind of just been hitting more of situational games, uh,
Mhm.
I guess, early on. And I just changed that up. And I'm going to be, obviously, we're 2 or 3 weeks in. And now that we're starting to see, okay, we got 5 games. I really like after the 10 to 15 game skids.
Yeah.
And then you can see, okay, here's a pattern here. These are the teams that are averaging the 3.5, letting in the threes or whatever, and you can go after the 6.5s. Um, but it's been a good start. Hope it continues tonight.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about the 5.5s. We're recording this during the Frozen Frenzy, but um that St. Louis and Winnipeg matchup tonight, they had it at 5.5, and that's a weird one, right? Because Winnipeg, they've scored the most goals in the league, I think, or they're
Yeah.
averaging the most in a game. Their offense is lights out, but they're also surrendering the least. And I don't trust the Blues to get 2 or 3 past Hollaback, so I'm freaking out. I'm like, should I take it? Should I not? I don't know.
Yeah, good point. I was looking at that game because I was like 5.5 St. Louis, Winnipeg. And then I was like, Hellebuck's in net. That guy's been red hot. And I just chose to stay away. I actually went with, uh, and it's weird because both their over records aren't great. And I'm kind of going towards, okay, does something have to switch here for both teams? I went Anaheim, San Jose. I should be wide open. A lot of young guys out there playing against each other. They know each other in college. And I'm like, you know what? Like the Cutter Goches or whatever, gonna go off tonight, maybe a Will Smith, and set at 5.5. And I think in their last 10 games, they're like 6-3-1 or 7-2 on the over, set at 6 or 6.5. So I'm like, I know you never know this early, but it's still early. So with teams that have been cold, sometimes it just takes one night and hopefully they put four in the net each, man, and goes to overtime.
How much weight do you put on like historical matchups? For instance, tonight I took Utah and Ottawa to go over. Um, and one of the, not the sole reason, but one of the reasons is because I saw when the, last season Coyotes played against Ottawa and a couple years before that, every single game seems to be this like 6-4, 7-3 kind of deal. And I don't put too much weight into it, but I do consider it. What do you do?
Yeah, I always look at historical. Some teams just play against certain teams like the same way, like whether it's coaching, like coaches style or teams that like to play against that team. Like Western Coast teams light up my Habs. Like it is what it is. Like we suck against them, and that's historical. Like, and you could bet it. Like LA came in off a back-to-back against Toronto, and I'm like, this is not going to go well. Like they just got lit up by Toronto, and sure enough, 4-1 game, LA. But as for overs, like it's it's not everything, obviously. There's gotta injuries, goaltending, a lot of things, power play, what they're clipping at, shots on, shots against. But for the most part, like if you see a matchup against two teams, especially if it's divisional, and they're like 2-8 on the over, I'm not touching that game. It could be styles, it could be they they're more like on the boards and not wide open. But I actually love that Ottawa Utah game. Utah's been fantastic this year for shots on net and just wide open hockey. Um, so I like the pick, and I think historically, I think they're 6-3-1 in their last 10, but their last 4 or 5 are all over by a mile, like
Yeah,
three or
it's
four
clipping.
goals.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that.
I did like
Uh,
that.
you want to chat a tiny bit about your shot on goal props? I know you were a little frustrated before we recorded saying you're missing it by a night, but what are a couple guys that you're looking at here?
Yeah, so definitely a rough start on the shot on goals. Once again, early on the season, so it's tough. But so early on, I like to lean against the big dogs, right? The Pasternaks, the Jack Hugheses of the world, Matthews, which early on I thought what were great matchups, maybe against the Columbus or whoever. I'm taking these guys. They just came off a, 5, 6, 7 shot night. And then they come out and I lose by the hook, or maybe they only have one shot. And I'm like, what is going on? Then the next game, they'll have six by the second period. So I'm not clipping on those yet, but I'm dialing it back on the shots. Not tonight with free frozen frenzy, of course. But we went all out tonight. I think I posted five, which is a first for me, but why not? Um, but that one I like to see, and I've said it in the past, sometimes those guys go on a cold streak, they'll go 2 or 3 games, and that's when I'm hammering them because those type of guys that are putting up 40, 50 goals a season, they don't just stop shooting, right? They're going to obviously maybe have a slow week or a bad couple games, but those guys, they want to score and their teams aren't winning without them. So that's when I look to hit those guys. But right now, McKinnon, Pasternak, Matthews, Hughes, it's tough because on 2.5, 3.5 shots, you have to pay a lot of juice, but I like them at 4.5, those guys. I think I took Matthews tonight against Columbus. He loves Columbus, so looking forward to him to have 7 or 8.
Nice. I mean, those are all really, really solid ones. I love your comment about the slump. It's like those guys are going to break out of that slump at any given point. So
Yeah.
you might as well be there for when that happens. I want to throw a
Yeah.
couple team futures at you just to get your thoughts on these. So I know it's early. Everyone's talking about how the Preds are struggling and somehow the Calgary Flames look good. So the Flames to make the playoffs are plus 220 right now, and the Preds are minus 120 to make the playoffs. How do we
That's
feel about
wild.
that?
That's wild. Um, Nashville, you know, off to a terrible start. I don't think anyone saw this coming, especially with the acquisitions in the offseason. I do like them for overs now with the acquisitions, but have been staying away from them lately just because I don't know what's going on there. Maybe there's too much change. Um, but it's tough. Like you look at teams that fall behind, it's not often that they do make the playoffs. Obviously, there's the Edmontons of the world that, made it work. And the one year St. Louis at Christmas made a full change coaching, brought in a bunch of Binghamton and whatever, and ended up winning the cup. But that's few and far between, right? So Nashville's got to be careful. Like they got to put a string of games here of solid wins. So at being minus 120, it's pretty early. Like, don't get me wrong, they could win the next five, and then we're like, yeah, it's a playoff team. Uh, Calgary at plus 220. I'm not sold on Calgary making the playoffs yet. I know they're off to a great start, but I wouldn't hold my breath there unless it just continues, right? It is now is it the third year now with Huberdeau, second year with Kadri, or even maybe third year
Yeah.
with Kadri. So maybe there is some chemistry there and they're buying in. But the goalies in net, like Wolf's young guy, 82 games is a long haul, and if it keeps up, awesome. More Canadian teams in the playoffs. I have nothing against Calgary. They're not in the Eastern Conference. If it was Toronto, or it'd be a different story. But um, with Calgary, I don't see them. The West is too deep. Like the top teams they're pretty strong.
Well, you can add 2 points to their record because they're playing my Penguins tonight, and we don't have a goalie, so that's
Yeah, you guys just you brought up. I always butcher the name. Nedeljkovic, I think it is.
yep, yep.
He's starting tonight.
Yeah, he started off the year hurt. We rode him the end of last season, but this is the second game in a row they've health bombed Tristan Jarry. So they
Yeah,
got
what's going on with him? What's his story?
well, there's not a whole lot going on. That's kind of the problem. He letting everything in. I feel bad for the guy. I trust me, I rip him just as much as anyone on the internet, but I do feel kind of bad for him because I can't remember who he played the last game he started, but there was the sarcastic cheer when he finally made a save, like,
Yeah,
after he let in like the
that's
first two
always
shots or
tough.
something.
It's
I just feel
always
bad
tough.
for him. You can tell he's rattled. He's completely rattled. So I
Yeah,
don't
and
know.
goalies, confidence is everything and momentum's massive, right? Like Stolzar in Toronto right now is unreal, making
Yeah.
crazy saves. He looks fantastic.
Yeah.
And going into the season, he was pegged to be the backup, and now Wall is, coming off injury, and he's going to be fighting for that number one job. So you just never know. But I like Pittsburgh this year for overs. So far,
Yeah.
so good. They're definitely on my list.
Yeah, they're hitting right now. I think I checked this morning. They might have hit over 6.5 more than anyone, but they've also played a lot of games already.
Yeah,
So
they have. Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah. They took down my halves. So
we haven't beat a playoff team yet, so I'm not that excited. But Nick, you got
that's true.
anything else before we let Cole go?
We have to put you on the hot seat. Who
Yeah.
who wins the Stanley Cup and what's the matchup?
Matchup in Stanley Cup. I am going to go from the Eastern Conference. It's going to be a New York team, right? I think it's Rangers or Jersey, one of them from the East. I think Florida is going to be too much hockey. They're good. They're real good. But I just think it's going to be too much hockey for them, and I don't see Toronto, Tampa, or Boston doing it. So it's going to be New Jersey or New York. And if I had to take one right now, it'd be New York. Shesterkin contract here, turned down a big dollar. I
Mhm.
think just he's looking for it, man. And if he stays healthy and that team stays healthy, I don't know if anyone's deeper in the East. So I'm gonna go Rangers. I'd prefer Jersey, I think. Just because I like Hughes and Bratt and the boys. But and then from the West, the easy answer would be Edmonton for me. Not sure
Good.
if that's like they're not looking great either right now, but they always start out cold. But if I was putting my own money on it, I'd say Rangers, Edmonton, and I'll say Edmonton gets it done this year.
That's the exact same
Wow.
prediction I had. The exact
Uh,
same one in the season preview. Yeah, it all makes sense, right?
yeah. So, and if I was putting my money on it, it's not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
uh, but
Yeah, no.
I don't know who else from the West right now. Like Winnipeg looks good, but
Dallas?
Dallas,
yeah,
Dallas,
Dallas, you're right. Yeah, that's a solid team.
they're sick.
That's and Edmonton. Edmonton took them a lot. Yeah, right after they beat Vancouver, right? They went
Yeah,
to
Yep.
Dallas.
yeah.
Yeah, that was a good series, but Edmonton got hot.
All right. Well, we'll be tracking it. You got the same pick as me, so it's definitely gonna hit, right?
Yeah, geniuses.
But we appreciate it, Cole. Thank you for the time. Good luck to
Yeah,
your
thanks for having
Habs.
me, guys.
Huge thanks to TDO for joining us. I always really enjoy chatting with him. Knows his stuff real well, both hockey and gambling. Doesn't just read stats, knows players, the Habs, everything. Just a joy to talk to. So just want to thank him once again for coming on. Uh, oh, Nick, you want to say something?
No, always good chatting with Cole. Such a nice guy and has been a great friend of the program, and we'll definitely get him back on as the season rolls on here.
He's cooking right now, it looks like on Frozen Frenzy. We're recording this live around 8 p.m., but yeah, he's looking good on his picks at the moment. We're going to move on to the discussion portion, but before we do, I think Mac has a word from our friends over at DraftKings.
Sure do. That's right. The quest for the Stanley Cup starts now. The puck's dropping on the 24-25 season. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
No bonus books around these parts. We don't read.
No, tongue twister. My bad.
No, you're
But
good.
unless it's like the collection of Calvin and Hobbes or something like that. But that's really I
True.
would say the peak reading level for this
That's good
podcast.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of bonus books, I just have a general question. This has nothing to do with hockey. When's the last time you guys read a book? Like a legitimate book, not a biography of like, Alex Ovechkin or something, but like a book.
Last week.
Really?
Yeah.
What did you read? If you don't mind sharing.
It was a book. Oh God, you guys are gonna make fun of me for this. It was a book about the guy who developed like one of the Porsche race cars from like the early 70s,
That's
stuff like that.
the shoe
That's
fits
cool.
on that one.
Um, my answer, does it count if I listened to the book?
So I would say yes, but for the sake of this question, I'm going to say no because
Okay,
I've
then
listened to books too, and I'm saying I haven't read a
we're gonna
book.
have to go way back then. Probably like I don't know, like 2019 or something like that.
Yep, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's I don't think since COVID I've read a book.
And
So I
even
think
if listening counts, it's still probably like 2021.
yeah, yeah. No, I just that thought occurred in my brain when you said bonus books. I was like, I wonder when the last time these guys read a book is. But
No, I'm with
uh,
you.
speaking of reading books, we had a controversial goal where the rule book had to actually be pulled out. Nick loved that one. What a segue by me. Matvey Michkov scored his first and second career goals against the Oilers last week, but his first career goal was put under review by the refs. Not sure if you guys had a chance to catch this one, but if you did, I want to ask you. Whose first goal would you rather have? Would you rather have Celebrini's, where it went off the opposing team and you didn't truly score it yourself? Or would you rather have Mitchkov's, where you go under review and you're not even sure if it's a goal for real? Because both are pretty weird ones to have.
I would just be happy with scoring a goal in the NHL. But
Uh,
then again, I don't know. I honestly I'm gonna go Michkov. You get to celebrate twice,
there you go. I like it.
and you'll always have a funny story about your first goal.
That's true. I'm with Nick that they don't ask how, they ask how many, but if I have to pick for the uh sake of the argument, I'd probably go Celebrini. It was a really sick play to like lead to the goal still, like the little spinorama move and everything. Um, but nothing to take away from Mitchkov. I mean, he was battling at the net front and potted one. That's how it goes.
Celebrini's was also at home too, and I think the
Oh, that plays a role.
like the
That is
boys
cool,
were a
yeah.
little bit more fired up for him than I would
True.
say the Flyers were for Michkov.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Harry,
I'm
what
trying to
about
think.
you?
Who did I'm thinking on it. Who did Celebrini score his on? Was it St. Louis? I think it
Sure.
was St. Louis. So, but you get the home ice with Celebrini, but in Mitchkoff, you're playing against Connor McDavid, the Oilers. They went to the
True.
Cup. It's like, ooh, I don't know. It's
Are you
tough. It was,
thinking like when I retire, I can say my first goal was against Connor McDavid and the Oilers kind of thing?
yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of cool to say. But that being said, I'm gonna side with Mac. I think I'm gonna go Celebrini, just because home, the goal horn, it goes in.
Hmm.
I'll take that. But it's just something that I thought about because it was a pretty strange week for first career goals there. We're going to move on to the Avalanche and the Predators, two Central Division teams that we all thought would be pretty good this year, and they are off to horrific starts. So both teams started the season 0-4. I know Colorado got on the in the win column over the weekend there, but Nashville still has yet to win a game. They're taking on the Bruins the night that we are recording this. That game has not started yet. Uh, I want to talk a little more about Nashville on this segment because I know we talked about Colorado a little bit last week already. There has not been, where's the stat here as I'm looking for it? No team has ever won the Stanley Cup after starting a season 0-4. And Nashville is now 0-5. What do you guys think?
No team's ever made the playoffs after starting 0-5.
I think I'm pretty sure I added this one to the outline. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I did see it. So don't quote me on that one. But I think that's right. Or it's been a very long time since it's happened.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts on Nashville so far?
It's not a good start, but I wouldn't be like fully panicking yet. I have a little bit more faith in this team to get things stable, honestly, than I do for Colorado. I think Colorado might have some serious problems this year.
I would mostly agree. I think like I still expect the Predators to be a better team than the Avalanche. Um, that being said, these first 5 games, only one of them has been a 1 goal game. So they're losing by multiple goals every time. You can definitely see the frustration on the players. Like I watched a little bit of the Saturday game this past week against the Wings, and they didn't play all that bad, but like I think one of the empty netters went in towards the end of the game, and Preds guy just fires it into the corner. It's one of those things where you can see they're all like, Jesus Christ, what is it going to take for us
Right.
to get in the win column? And the longer that goes, the harder it is to like clear your head and just play the game, which is what they're going to need to do to get off the schneid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things where, I'm sure it's affecting the locker room. I don't know how it can't, it's never fun when you're losing, and it's the polar opposite when you're winning. So I don't know what this team needs. Maybe they need to just, you talked about the road trip thing, clear your head. Maybe they just need a road trip to, go out there, exercise some demons, maybe get a night out or something and just, put this thing to bed. But yeah, I would definitely I've got a little bit more faith in this team than I do in the Avs for sure.
Well, it looks like they don't have more than 2 games in a row on the road for quite a while, and even to get 2 straight on the road, that doesn't happen until like November 6th and 7th when they go play the
Yeah, it can't
Caps
go
and
that
then
long.
Panthers. So they're gonna have to figure that out sooner than that can bail them out.
They also really haven't had a cakewalk game as I'm looking at their schedule right now. They've lost to Dallas, Detroit, Seattle, Edmonton, and Detroit. I would probably argue Detroit might be the weakest of those clubs, and they're still not even that bad of a squad. So
And they're playing the Bruins today while we're recording. However, next up after that is Blackhawks and then Blue Jackets. So hopefully they can string 2 together there, build some momentum.
I think the big concern for the Preds is like second worst goal differential. Only San Jose is worse.
yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Steven Stamkos. Thank you to him for helping us hit our EB parlay on Saturday. I was the one who took him, and I just had a gut feeling he was due. But that is quite literally the only thing he has done with the squad so far. He has 1 goal and 0 assists through 5 games. Rough start.
Yeah, not ideal for him. I think, again, great example of bringing in a ton of talent doesn't necessarily mean your team is going to be better. But, like we talked about with the Caps, this team does have some new acquisitions. They could just be still generating chemistry together, figuring out what everyone's role is. So I wouldn't imagine he takes too much of a drop off, but if you had told me in August that Steven Stamkos would have 1 goal and no other contributions through 5 or 6 games, I would have said you're crazy.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, the top line, Forsberg, O'Reilly, Nyquist, like they seem like they're gelling. All three of those guys look fine. But then after that, it's kind of weird. I know Sijins and Novak, probably swapping those guys on the second line. It just hasn't seemed like it's fit in yet. And Evangelista, I mean, I had him on fantasy. I was actually pretty bullish on him, but so far only 2 apples. Had to send him to the waiver wire. Max picking him up right now as I'm saying that. It's because he beat me last week. Can't stand that.
He is unreal in Shell 25, by the way. Like you can trade like a fourth round pick for him and just pick corners all day.
I love that.
While we're talking about, I know we're talking about teams on the Schneid, but can I throw in a guy on the Schneid that I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about?
Yes, throw it.
Zach Hyman, regular season so far, 6 games played, 0 goals, 0 assists, -1, averaging 19 minutes a night and change. Cardio king right now. I saw somebody today pose the question on Twitter. Was last year the most fraudulent 50-goal season of all time? I think it's a little early to be having that conversation, but it's definitely a little surprising. This was a dude that I had on my fantasy team last year. Uh, Enjoyed the benefits of that all season long, and then this year was really gunning for him in the draft, and somebody snagged him like right before I was going to, and I was really pissed. But right now, I'm kind of happy.
That's crazy. Like I said about Stamkos, I would have said the same thing about Hyman, especially because you would just figure at some point McDavid or Draisaitl is going to throw something at him that is going to go off him and into the net.
Yeah. And that the assists thing too, like I know it's not like he had that many assists, but with all the talent around him, it's like almost impressive not to have set somebody up at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I hate to use this word merchant because it gets thrown around a lot, but maybe a little bit of a power play merchant there. The Oilers power play is 30th in the NHL so far in the season. So if that's not clicking, going to be hard for Hyman to get up there. But in
Yeah,
terms of
that's a
fraudulent
good
50
point.
goals, Jonathan Cheechoo has to be one, right? That's the
Oh
only one
yeah.
I can. He has to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, we'll
That
have to brainstorm a couple and we can all come with one next week or something. That's a good question.
Yeah, for sure. But I know we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, and Nick, you even alluded to it at the start of the recording. The NHL scheduling a frozen frenzy on a random Tuesday night in October while they are competing against the NBA on opening night, which features a Celtics Lakers matchup, is quite the strategy. And I would just love to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Well, first of all, you're not going to beat the NBA. I'm sorry. I'll die on the hill that the NHL is 10 times the league that the NBA is, but just in the United States in a basketball market, you're never going to beat the NBA. I'm not pissed that it's on a weeknight because I really don't know when else they could do it. They'd be competing with college football or the NFL Friday night, who knows? But I think the bigger issue is just the fact that it was not marketed well at all. I watch Pardon the Eruption on ESPN pretty much daily. It was not mentioned on there at
Yeah.
all in the weeks leading up to it. And like if it did, I missed the one yesterday and today, but 1 or 2 days beforehand, probably not the way to go. I'd actually like to see, I like that they're doing this at the beginning of the season because if you're going to hook fans, this is a great way to do it. Make all these games free. I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. I
Waive
was just gonna
waive
say
ESPN Plus for this because if you
it's
want to get people into it, cast a wide net, man.
it's one fucking day. Like, don't be so greedy. I know you probably want more revenue and blah blah blah, and like the NHL, they want to make more money. I get it, but like it's one fucking day. And if anything, this is gonna like you're gonna ROI that shit by
You're
having
gonna
people
get
like
more
watch games and then
subscriptions.
be like, damn, all right, I'm gonna buy this. Like I'm gonna watch
Yeah,
this all season.
someone goes over
Um,
to their buddy's house and they start bouncing around games, maybe having a
yeah,
couple beers or something, and then the next week they're like, "Damn, I wish I could just throw on a hockey game or something. Let me just eat the 11.99 that it is for
yeah.
ESPN Plus now."
No, it's crazy to not to just be like, well, we're gonna put three of the games on ESPN. It's like, okay, then what's the point of there being 16 of them? No, like that doesn't make any sense. I agree with you, the weekday weekend thing. I mean, personally, I actually am usually more free to watch games on like a weekday. That's just coming
Same.
from a young gentleman who be getting pretty busy on the weekends. So that's just me. But yeah, I mean on a Tuesday, the same day the NBA starts. That's just silly. I think a Wednesday has kind of become like hockey night over the last few years. I think that would have made more sense. Or even a Thursday. Thursday is like a pseudo weekend. So then you kind of make people happy that way.
And they don't have to watch
Um,
a really shitty football game.
well, yeah, I guess they would have had to compete there. Yeah, so I don't know. Wednesday probably would have made more sense, but either way, just not on the opening night of NBA season. Or again, if you really wanted to do it this early in the season, have it like last week on like Wednesday or something. Do it like the first or second week of the season when we're still dealing with NBA preseason. Like nobody watches that shit.
And it's not like the NHL and like doesn't have to already sort out NBA logistics with its scheduling. I mean, here in the States, and I mean, how many NHL teams share their barn with an NBA team? So it's like you
Right.
really couldn't figure this one out to plan it any better. It's just once again another stellar marketing move by the NHL marketing team.
Yeah. I could rant about this for another like 30 minutes probably, but I won't.
I agree with Mac, and like Thursday's the best day to do it. And honestly, I mean, unless your favorite team's playing, fuck Thursday night football. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it, but as you go further into the season, we are seeing these matchups are atrocious. I'm not watching. Who
Dude,
was last week?
London gets better games than Thursday does.
Yeah. Yeah. Like this would have been fine on a Thursday.
Wasn't it like Denver and like the
New
Saints last
Orleans.
week or something like that?
Yeah, it was Spencer Rattler versus Bo Nix. Like I'm not
And like
doing it.
everybody's hurt on the Saints too, so it's just
Yep.
like it's stupid.
Yeah.
But
Eh,
not hurt enough for Taysom Hill. So it's like not even like what's the point?
Opening day, maybe that's an idea. I don't know. You create some buzz. Like I feel like if it's opening day of the NHL, hey, every team plays. That's kind of more fun than 2.5 weeks in on a Tuesday. Like
I mean, that you're about to open up a whole nother can of worms, but how silly is it that like opening night of the NHL, there's like two random game, like they freaking dip their toe in the water of this shit every year, and it's like
it's annoying.
just fucking open the can and drink it.
Well, and fellow friend of the program, Turk, he tagged us in this tweet yesterday, and we reposted it because it's just so true and it's so stupid. He tweeted at us. He said the NHL back to their old tricks. One game Monday night, million on Tuesday night, one on Wednesday, million on Thursday. And I just have to say, as a
Yeah.
hockey fan, I hate that. I
And you know
cannot
who it
stand it.
really fucks? Fantasy hockey players.
Yes. Oh my God. What are you
So
supposed to do? Like,
every player on my
yeah.
like 25-man team is playing today. So now you're sorting between what guys. I mean, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
I enjoy the challenge of it. But then I like tomorrow, I'm gonna be like fighting over tenths of a point that one defenseman is gonna get me
Or you're
versus
picking up
tonight when
like
I'm
third
leaving.
liners in the
Right,
one
I'm leaving
game.
30 points on the bench.
Yeah, it's brutal.
It's infuriating. Enough on that topic because I feel like the three of us could probably go another 20 minutes on that. But this last little tidbit, and Nick, I correct me if I'm wrong. I think you added this one.
I believe I did.
It's a pretty cool one. I
I don't
like
know. It's been
this.
a long day.
Last week on Scripps Sports Podcast, Florida Panthers CEO Matthew Caldwell said that season ticket holders of 30 years will also receive a Stanley Cup champion ring. I think that is awesome.
I think
Super
that's
cool.
great for all three of those people.
Yeah, right. That's probably why they're doing it
Yeah, right.
because they got to
That's
buy a
so
ring.
true. That's such a good point.
It like didn't cost the team anything. They're like, oh, you need like three more to meet your ring quota for like the
Right.
order.
And they're
So
like,
he's
let's
like,
see, who could we like let's see, the elevator guy.
right,
He's been here a while. Oh
parking
yeah,
attendant. Yeah,
the two season ticket holders that we've had for 30 years. Let's
Oh,
do those guys too.
yeah,
Barbara's worked at the concession stand for 30 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
right, right.
Nick,
Uh,
did you by chance listen to it? Like, did anyone ask like how many are there?
I
Or
did not. I saw this in a tweet, and the responses were absolutely hilarious, and they were all
uh,
sort of in theme with what I just said. But I agree with you. I love this. I think this is awesome. I think it would have been a little bit more expensive for the Caps to do it. Probably would have been a lot more expensive for the Penguins to do it. You definitely could not do this in a Canadian market, I don't think. But honestly, I can't think of a better way for that team to pay back that fan base for watching a lot of those hockey games over the course of those 30 years. Because I know the Panthers started out great. They went to the Cup final in 96, but they had to wait a long time for there to be like a competent direction that team was moving in.
yeah, tip the cap for sure. I think that's an awesome gesture. I know it's probably under like 10, maybe. Maybe I'm way off here, but
I would love to know the number. Like if they could all post theirs on social media, we could tally that up. I would love to.
To be clear, like you have to have been a season ticket holder the entire time.
I think so. That's the way I read
that's
it and understood it.
Yeah.
that's how I would interpret. It can't be more than
I think realistically it could be like 100, but that's where I'm putting it at like the absolute maximum. There's
There's
no way
got
it's
to
more
be
than
at
that.
least a handful that are just really wealthy and have the tickets and then maybe
Yes.
sell them
Right.
or
That's kind
don't
of what I
use
was
them or
thinking.
something.
Realistically, I bet it's more around like 50 or something like that. But
I'm gonna give myself a homework assignment and try and investigate this for next episode. So because I'm gonna do that, let's get a prediction. How many
okay.
people you think get a ring?
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
say
s-
55.
Oh, I'm gonna go like 20.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'll go just to not copy Nick, I'll go 25 with 25.
I would love to know just for reference, Mac, I don't know if your dad has a way to figure this out, like how many rings the Caps gave out when they won the
Mhm.
cup. Because that was
Mm.
like broadcasters got one, front office got one.
Yep.
They took care of the team.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think every team does it a little differently, but I don't know what like the ballpark number is.
Well, we are going to move on to trivia here to wrap up the episode. And I hope you guys haven't seen this one because I know it was posted quite a bit on my social media timeline. But let's get into this one here. There are only 4 players left in the NHL who do not wear a visor. Can you name those 4?
Jamie Benn.
That is one.
Hold on. Ryan Reeves.
Yep.
That is 2.
Matt Martin.
That is not one of them. I don't know if he's
Maybe
like
he's not Ross. No, wait, is he?
I have no idea. This comes to us from BR Open Ice.
Okay.
Um,
Zach Bogosian.
that is 3.
Okay.
Hang on. Oh, Ryan O'Reilly.
There you
That's
go.
the 4th.
Nice
Wow,
pull.
good shit.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah.
pull.
Good shit, fellas.
But wait, what is the deal with Matt Martin? I would think that let's see. Is he
Quick
just
little
like
Google
not
search.
rostered this
Is
year
he
or
done?
something?
Did he hang him up and we totally missed that?
I don't think so.
Or maybe he's AHL. I don't know. Did Lou give him the grew a beard over the summer and he was like, nope, you're done.
Yeah, can't do that.
Yeah, he's an unrestricted free agent.
Wow.
Guess the
Okay.
contract was up.
Yeah,
Ah,
and nobody
something of
picked him
sorts.
up, I guess.
Had no clue. Had no clue. Yeah, good stuff. Bogosian, O'Reilly, Ben, and Reeves.
Nice.
Wait, is
What?
Matt Martin married to Boomer Esiason's daughter? I did
Yeah.
not know that. Okay,
Sydney
cool.
Esiason, right?
I did not know that.
Yes. Yes, he is.
It's got to be a fun Thanksgiving to go to, right?
Yeah.
Sure. You guys got anything else for this epi that you want to say before we wrap up 2:30 here?
Go buy merch. We have some cool stuff on the site.
Yeah. Some
That
new
would-
cool stuff too.
Go subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Pumping
That
out a lot of
too.
stuff over there. That would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, I think that's a wrap on 2:30. So appreciate the love and support as always. And without further ado,
Class dismissed.